Good afternoon, everyone. Uh, Coming back to your research methodology and IPR, we discussed with Unit 2, I think in the month of March probably. We have stopped at problem definition, that is research problem, defining the research problem. What is this research problem? Selecting the research problem, necessity of defining the problem, technique involved in defining a problem. Then we have started with research design, meaning of research design, need for research design, features of good design. Then we have discussed important concepts relating to research design. Then different research designs, basic principles of experimental design. So in the self-learning topic, you have features of good design. So I'll brush up Unit 2 once again, then we'll go with Unit 3, what is sampling design. Okay. So already I've written. So what things we have discussed is, what is this research problem and how it is being selected. So these are some contents which I am going to discuss today in the context with Unit 2, that is how the research problem is formulated. To formulate the research problem, what are the things, what is the literature study you need to carry out, and how this literature study is carried out in the conceptual framework, and how it is reviewed and how it is written. So in defining the research problem, first is what is that problem, what is research problem, then how you need to select the problem, that is important task. Then necessity of defining problem, is it necessary, it is necessary for defining a problem, or without defining a problem can we carry out the research, that is a question mark. Then technique involved in defining a problem. So after this we'll discuss some literature part, that is reviewing the literature, how this plays the important role in carrying out the research task. Okay. In that reviewing the literature, we have place of literature review in research, bringing clarity and focus to your research problem, improving research methodology, broadening knowledge base in research area, enabling contextual findings, how to review the literature, searching the existing literature, reviewing the selected literature, developing a theoretical framework, developing a conceptual framework, and writing about literature. So these are the steps you need to carry out in literature part. So how you define the research problem, what is the actual problem, how you define it. So I have highlighted here, you can see that research process, in the research process, the first and foremost step happens to be that the selecting and properly defining a research problem. Okay. What is that research problem? A researcher must find the problem and formulate it so that it becomes susceptible to the research. Like a doctor, a researcher must examine all the symptoms presented to him and observed by him concerning a problem before he can diagnose correctly. So what is a problem is, you need to identify some difficulty or some findings which are not yet existing in the literature on the context of the literature. So that is the problem. Okay. So I have written here that the research problem in general refers to some difficulty which a researcher experiences in this context of either a theoretical or practical situation and wants to obtain a solution for the same. So present scenario, if you see, the COVID or the corona has taken a lot of risk things, or it has taken a boom in the entire world, where this is one problem which everybody is behind that in identifying the solution to that. Maybe the researchers or the medical officers, the doctors, the scientists, everybody are behind that to identify what is the vaccine or the what do you call, the remediation to cure this disease. Okay, that can be a problem in medical field. Okay, so it is some general difficulty or some difficulty in the context of theoretical or practical situation. So these are the conditions of research problem to exist. There is one small example they have given with taking the two courses of action, C1 and C2, and they have explained in terms of some control variables. So we will not go into deep for this. Okay, directly I will start with the requirement. Okay, so research problem, you can see that any problem which you cannot have a magnitude of small or large, it depends upon its the frame, you can call it as in its context how it is being dealt. Okay, Any area you feel, any area you pick or any field you pick, the problem may not remain same. It may vary from one discipline or one field to another field, depending upon its gravity, depending upon its magnitude, and depending upon its the type of solution what you are going to give. Okay. Here the research problem is one which requires a researcher to find out the best solution for a given problem. That is to find out by which course of action the objective can be attained optimally in the context of given environment. That is what I was saying, that any field you pick, the problem may not remain same. The problem gravity will change, right? In the same pattern you are going to find the solution. So there may not be the same gravity of difficulty in every aspect or every kind of field. Okay. You take social science, either you take environment based or you take structural field or medical line or any kind of research, the problem may not remain same, but its gravity definitely changes. Only the thing is we are going to find the solution to that in economical manner or in feasible pattern. So here I have written that there are several factors which may result in making a problem complicated. For instance, the environment may change affecting the efficiency of the course of action. That is what I was saying. The gravity or magnitude, the environment may not set for the problem. It may have different kind or different factors in different areas. The number of alternative course of action may be very large. Persons are not involved in making decision, may be affected by it and react to it favorably or unfavorably, and similar other factors. All such elements, or at least the important ones, may be thought of it in the context of research problem. Okay. So the first step is the selection. When you are talking about a research problem and you are talking about making a research or carrying out a research in any of the field, first thing is you need to select a problem. Okay. Haphazardly you cannot say this is a problem and I am going to find the solution. The problem undertaken for the study must be carefully selected. That is what he says. Okay. It should be carefully selected. The task is difficult one, although it may not appear to be so. Help may be taken from the research guide in this connection. So whatever problem you are going to select for your study, that problem should be carefully selected, because it is not trial and error which you are going to pick today and cancel tomorrow and again pick after a day, then change it after a month. That cannot happen. So the problem identification is very important. Once the problem identification is done properly, then the process of further the research is the simple task. You can say it is a smooth process. Nevertheless, every researcher must find out his own salvation for research problems, cannot be borrowed. You cannot have ready-made problems. If you type a Google and you are getting a ready-made problem, that is not a thing. You have to select a problem from the literature, and I'll tell how that literature is done and how you are going to pick up the problem. Right? A problem must spring up from the researcher mind like a plant springing from its own seed. Right? There should not be any help from the any source. Right? It should be the own idea, your own thinking, which you are going to get it. Okay? And select in such a way that it should be feasible in a proper, perfect manner. Okay? One small example I have written here. If our eyes needs glasses, it is not the optician alone who decides about the number of lenses we require. We have to see ourselves and enable him to prescribe for us the right number by cooperating with him. Nothing but it is not only the guide, what you call help, or the subordinate's help, or your colleague's help. It is your own idea, it is your own decision, it is your own hard work which you are going to find out this problem, then deal with it in connection with guide or in connection with colleagues or in connection with friends. In that discussion, you come with very perfect problem. Thus, a research guide can at the most only help the researcher choose the subject. Okay, he may not say this is the title and this is the work, these are the objectives which you need to carry out. It is only his duty to choose the subject. Okay, that is what he is saying. If our eyes needs glasses, it is not optician alone who decides the number of the lens we require. It is ourselves we have to decide. Okay, it is your own target, it is your own work, and it is your own aim. You are going to pick up this objective and select the problem very concise and very specific. So important points in selecting a research problem. So what are some points which you are going to select the research problem? A subject which is overdone should not be normally chosen, for it will be very difficult task to throw any new light in such a case. Okay. So if it is overdone subject or something new, you cannot pick and say I am doing something new and finding out the solution for this. Controversial subject should not become the choice of an average researcher. So controversial subject, so the subjects which are no essence or have no gravity in the discussion or in its what you call the content, that should not be chosen. Too narrow or too vague problem should be avoided. Nothing but a narrow one or a vague one. So there will be a lot of imperfections or errors if you choose. So that must be avoided. The subject selected for research should be familiar and feasible, so that the related research material or sources of research are within one's reach. Okay. So the subject selected for research should be familiar and feasible. So he should have his own area of interest or his own field of interest or his discipline. Okay. Beyond that you cannot do, because you don't have basic familiarity with the subject. So that becomes tough to continue. Even then it is quite difficult to supply definitive ideas concerning how a researcher should obtain ideas for his research. Okay. For this purpose, a researcher should contact an expert or a professor in university who is already engaged in that research. So one simple thing is, when you are selecting a problem, you need to contact some experts or a professors in a university who is already engaged in that research topic, or already people who are working on it. Have discussion with such people. Okay. Or else he may as well read some articles published in current literature available on the subject, and may think how the techniques and ideas discussed therein might be applied to the solution of other problems. So this is how you are going to get the final field. It is, I cannot say directly the title. You are going you are not supposed to get directly the ready-made title that this is the problem and I am going to deal with that. Only the discussion part will give you the proper guidance how and where you are going to get this problem. Okay. The importance of the subject, the qualifications and the training of the researcher, the cost involved, the time factor, or few other criteria that must be considered in selecting a problem. This is very important, because when you are going with the research, it is not only the one work which you are going to carry out, not only the research, there are multitasking which you are going to carry out with the research. Is the cost. You have to take care of time, you have to take care of the people, you have to take care of the quality. So one or the more factors are involved in this. So in other words, before the final selection of the problem is done, the researcher must ask himself the following questions. These are some questions which yourself you have to pose. Whether he is well equipped in terms of his background to carry out the research, whether you are having the proper laboratory equipment or proper set of equipment that you can carry out, whether the study falls within the budget he can afford. If your project is very costly, if it is going lakhs together or crores together, can it be affordable by you? That is very important point which you need to pose yourself. Whether the necessary cooperation can be obtained from those who must participate in research as subjects, whether they are having equal knowledge or they are having whether the fundamentals of that, whether they are clear with the subject or no, you need to have that idea. Because if you are taking some help from somebody and they don't know what to do work, and every time they are following your the guidelines, then it becomes very tough to handle the teamwork. If the answers to these questions are in the affirmative, one may become sure as far as practicability of this study is concerned. The selection of the problem must be presided by the preliminary study. Okay, this may not be necessary when the problem requires the conduct of the research closely similar to one that has already been done. Okay, the field of inquiry is relatively new and does not have available a set of well-developed techniques. A brief feasibility study must always be undertaken. Okay. So after this discussion with the colleagues, discussion with the guide, discussion with the professor from the university, having proper teamwork, finding out all these questions, posing yourself, whether you are good at cost, time, budget, your laboratory equipment, you are well equipped, everything. What is necessary in defining the problem? That is very important. Now you have already selected the problem. What was the necessary or what was the interest in finding out the problem. Quite often we all hear that problem clearly stated is the problem half solved. Clear? If your problem is clearly stated and it is formulated properly, then it is half solved and your work is half done, because you know the way where you have to travel. Okay? If you are not aimed, if you don't have an objective, and if you are traveling, you nowhere reach. So this is the necessity of defining the research problem. If it is already known, you know what to be done, the half of the problem is solved. This statement signifies the need for defining a research problem. The problem to be investigated must be defined ambiguously, for that will help to discriminate relevant data from irrelevant ones. Okay? So there should not be any ambiguity in the problem, and that will help in discriminate relevant data from irrelevant ones. Once your ambiguity is zero, it shows you are on right path, your title chosen is on right track, and your problem is up to the mark. A proper definition of research problem will enable the researcher to be on track, whereas all ill-defined problems may create hurdles. If your problem is not previously defined properly, or at that initial stage it is not clear, in the later case it is going to create a hurdle. Okay? So questions like what data are to be collected, what characteristics of data are relevant to need study, what relation, what technique. So you are going to have number of difficulties, number of hurdles later case if your statement of the problem is half done, or if it is not clear in the context. So similar other questions crop up in the mind of the researcher, who can well plan a strategy and find answers to all such questions only when research problem has been well defined. So thus defining a research problem properly is a prerequisite for any study, and it is step by step of highest importance. In fact, formulation of the problem is often more essential than its solution. It is only on careful detailing the research problem that we can work out the research design and can smoothly carry on all the consequential steps involved while doing research. Okay, this was about how you find the research problem, how you get it, then selecting. After selection, how you define the research problem. This is one set. Next, technique involved in defining a problem. What are the techniques that is involved in defining a problem? Defining a problem involves the task of laying down boundaries within which a researcher shall study the problem with predetermined objective. Okay, he has to lay down some boundaries within which a researcher shall study the problem with predetermined objective. The usual approach to define a problem is that researcher should himself pose a question, or in someone else wants the researcher to carry on a research. The concerned individual, organization, or an authority should pose the question to the researcher and set up the techniques or procedures for throwing light on the question concerned for formulating or defining the research problem. So this defining a research problem properly and clearly is a crucial part of research study and must in no case be accomplished hurriedly. This statement is very important. However, in practice, this is frequently overlooked, which causes a lot of problems later on. So these are the techniques for which the purpose involves undertaking of following steps, generally one after other. Statement of the problem. These are some steps already we have discussed, even though I am just brushing up. Statement of the problem in general way. Understanding the nature of the problem. Surveying the available literature. So this is a very important step, surveying the available literature. Developing the ideas through discussion. Then 3, 4, 5 plays a very important role. Surveying the available literature, developing the ideas through discussion, rephrasing the research problem into working proposition. Statement of the problem in general way. First of all, the problem should be stated in broad general way, keeping in view either some practical concern or some scientific or intellectual interest. So the field should be decided. Later you are going to stream it out in small area. Okay. Then you are going to enter into finding the proper statement. The moment you are going to find the problem, directly you don't find the problem. You are going to find out the area, then it is cut down into small way, taking the scientific, technical aspects, intellectual interest, and making into a general way. For this purpose, the researcher must immerse himself thoroughly in the subject matter concerning which he wishes to pose a problem. In case of social research, it is considered advisable to do some field observation, and as such the researcher may undertake some sort of preliminary study survey, or what is often called as pilot survey. So So in the survey, we know that reconnaissance survey, before going to field, we will always go with reconnaissance survey, where you are going to identify some sorts of feasibility of the sites, where you are going to identify some crew points and then enter into the survey point. Same way, before doing this, in social research, he says that pilot study is required. Every research, the pilot study is must, because that is going to give you some idea so what the thing can be done. Okay. The problem stated in a broad general way may contain various ambiguities which may be resolved by cool thinking and rethinking over a problem. So this is very important. When there is some sort of ambiguity, you have to think, resolve at the initial stage. At the same time, the feasibility of a particular solution has to be considered, and the same should be kept in a view while stating the problem. Okay. So feasibility of particular solution, finding this feasibility is also very important. If your problem is very tough and if you are not supposed to get a solution at the end, then it is no end. You have no end to that. There is a full point. That becomes very difficult to end up the task. Okay. Once you are finding the problem properly, you have to carry out the things smoothly and find out whether the solution to that problem is feasible, easily can we get it. That is very important. Then understanding the nature of the problem. The next step in defining a problem is to understand its origin and nature clearly. Okay, how you are going to understand what is that origin is. The best way of understanding the problem is to discuss it with those who first raised it in order to find out how the problem originally came about, with what objective in view. For example, if you have some problem, discuss simple thing. You have to discuss with your colleagues, you have to discuss with your friends, you have to discuss with your guide, or the problem who has already raised. Just find out from where he has identified this, what was the origin and what nature the thing is. Clearly it gets into the picture. For a better understanding of the nature of the problem involved, he can enter into discussion with those who have good knowledge of the problem concerned or similar with others. So understanding the nature of problem is very important task. Next comes is surveying the available literature. This is the never ending process. Once you start the research until the end, this is never ending. This will be continuing till your end of the solution availability. So this literature is very important, which is going to give you the guideline, or it is like code book which gives you proper track where you are. All available literature concerning the problem at hand must necessarily be surveyed and examined before a definition of a research problem is given. This means that the researcher must be well conversant with relevant theories in the field, reports and records, and as also all other relevant literature. He must devote sufficient time in reviewing of research already undertaken on related problems. This is done to find out what data and other materials, if any, are available for operational purpose. Okay. So this is in general what we are going to do. Later again I will take this part, the surveying part, the literature survey. Next is developing the ideas through discussion. This is one important task which you are going to do after literature survey, that is developing the ideas through discussion. Discussion concerning a problem often produces useful information. Various new ideas can be developed through such an exercise. Hence, a researcher must discuss his problem with his colleagues and others who have enough experience in the same area or in the working on similar problem. This is quite often known as experience survey. Okay. People with rich experience are in a position to enlighten the researcher on different aspects of his proposed study, and their advice and comments are usually invaluable to the researcher, and they help him sharpen his focus of attention on specific aspects within the field. So discussion with such persons should not only be confined to the formulation of specific problem at hand, should also be concerned with general problem. Next, once it is discussed with the colleagues, then the thing is rephrasing the research problem. Finally, the researcher must sit to rephrase the research problem. Then you are cutting down from the field of the large extent to a smaller one. You are going to sort it, make it short, then have a precise sentences, okay, and make it into proper relevant words. Okay, once the nature of the problem has clearly understood, the environment within which problem has got studied has been defined, discussions over the problem have been taken place, and available literature has been surveyed and examined, rephrasing the problem into analytical or operational terms is not difficult to one. Only the terminologies are important. You are bringing out into the proper statement. Okay. These are some illustrations it is given. It is all available in your textbook that you can go through that. Okay. So the conclusion of this is, we may conclude by saying that task of defining a research problem very often follows sequential pattern. The problem is stated in general way, ambiguity is resolved, thinking and rethinking, then rephrasing. This is how it is done. Next important task or part is reviewing the literature. What is this reviewing the literature, or for what is the literature is the thing. What is literature? One of the essential preliminary tasks when you undertake a research study is to go through the existing literature in order to acquaint yourself with the available body of knowledge in your area of interest. Okay. Whatever preliminary task you have undertaken in research study, you have to carry out the existing literature study. Nothing but what content you are going to get on that matter you should have thorough knowledge. Okay. Reviewing the literature can be time consuming, daunting or frustrating, but it is also rewarding, because the history, if you don't know the history behind the things, you don't get the exact idea what to be done in the future scope. So reviewing may be time consuming or daunting or frustrating, or you feel like it is wasting the time, but you get the depth of knowledge, or you get the thorough command on existing literature, what the people have carried out, what is the things in the past, clear, so that your area of interest gets proper foundation, proper base. Okay. The literature review is an integral part of research process and makes a valuable contribution to almost every operational setup. It has value even before the first step, that is, when you are merely thinking about a research question that you may want to find answers to through your research journey. Okay. In the initial stages of a research, it helps you to establish the theoretical roots of your study, clarify your ideas and develop your research methodology. Okay, starting what it does is, it is establishing theoretical root, then it is clarifying your ideas, develop your research methodology. Later, this review serves to enhance, consolidate your knowledge base and helps to integrate your findings. Okay, every stage this is going to give you the guide, right? It is like a code book, I say it is like code. Okay, since an important responsibility in research is to compare your findings with those of others, it is here through the literature review plays an extremely important role, because when you are doing something, you find some discussion part, you identify some group point and get some graphs or something else, then how you are going to validate is with the existing one or the people who have already done the past. One best example I would like to share here is, if you compare the old construction techniques and new construction techniques, we don't find any new technique things which nowadays we are doing. It is already been carried out in olden days. For example, stone masonry, the people have constructed the monuments and they are standing more than 300 years, right? They had an idea of rainwater harvesting, right, from Harappan civilization. If you take the cement, okay, the cement may be the new material, new generation material, but the people have already found that there was some adhesive content in the lime. So if you take a cement, already the lime content is it is involved, right? It is added as a raw material. So already the people have already worked and already they have constructed, they have been succeeded. Now only the thing is, we are only researching and identifying some new materials. We are not doing something new. We are finding the things which is already done in the past with some new things. If you take pre-stressed concrete, already the technique of pre-stressing was done. Okay, bullock cart, you know that for a bullock cart, the wheel, we provide some nail to that, so that while running the bullock cart, the wheel should not come out. So pre-stressing idea was at that time, right? Then they used to put some steel windings to the some bucket, so that there should not be any bursting stress. So pre-stressing effect was already developed, the tendons and all, right? It was all in the olden age. Only now it has been fascinated in something new thing, right? Even in RCC, if you take the methodology is already copied. I mean, we refer to the past literature and develop something new now, right? It is not completely new. So every stage it is going to give you some new ideas and some new level and way. During the write-up of your report, it helps you to integrate your findings with existing knowledge. That is very important. When you are going to find something new, you should have some backup. When you are comparing with the existing research or existing literature, then it gives the confidence, it gives the validation that your work is authentic. Clear? That is why we go with mixed design with code, RCC we go with IS 456, any concrete mixed design, anything you go with, we go with caudal provisions. Why? It is Indian standard. We cannot simply mix a concrete and say this is the ratio and this is what we are doing. No. Clear? The codal provisions will give us a guidance how we are going to do. Alright, somewhere if you go wrong, again we go back to code and check what we have done wrong. Okay. The higher the academic level of your research, the more important a thorough integration of your findings with literature, existing literature becomes. Okay. In summary, a literature review has the following functions. It provides a theoretical background to your study. It helps you establish the links between what you are proposing to examine and what has already been studied. It enables you to show how your findings have contributed to existing body of knowledge in your profession. It helps you to integrate your research findings into existing body of knowledge. In relation to your own study, the literature review can help in 4 ways. Bring clarity and focus to your research problem. It gives correct way, it gives proper clarity, it gives clear picture what you are doing. Improve your research methodology. If something your planning or your design is wrong, research design, it rectifies properly. Broaden your knowledge base in your research area. Contextualize your findings. Okay, so the literature plays very important role. Bringing clarity and focus. How it brings clarity and focus is, on the one hand, you cannot effectively undertake a research, the literature search, without some idea of problem you wish to investigate. Okay. On the other hand, the literature review can play an extremely important role in shaping your research problem, because the process of reviewing the literature helps you to understand the subject area better. Okay. So it gives very conceptual idea, clarity and focus. When reviewing the literature, you learn what aspects of your subject area have been examined by others, what they have found out about these aspects and what were their gaps and how they identified and how they carried out, alright, and how they have ended up, how discussion they have written, how conclusions they have written. That is very important. All this will help us to gain a greater insight, and you will get some idea that how your work should be and how we are going to do in the future. In addition, it will help you to focus your study on areas where there are gaps in existing body of knowledge, thereby enhancing its relevance. Some or the other, you get some gaps, you find that this is not carried out, that is not carried out, this is the effective, this influences more, this factor is influencing more. So such type of gaps, small gaps, you are going to identify when you are thoroughly doing literature study. So once that formulation, that gap is identified, okay, the smallest gap, you are going to find the proper solution to that. Once you get that solution, you are again cross-checking with your literature, and your findings will get some confidence or some sort of guts that this work is authentic. Okay. Improve your research methodology. So one thing is, it is going to give you clear idea and picture, clarity is clear, then it gives you the improving, it improves your research methodology. Going through the literature acquaints you with methodologies that have been used by others to find answers to new research questions similar to one you are investigating. A literature review tells you if others have used procedures and methods similar to ones that you are proposing, which procedures and methods have worked well for them and what problems they have faced with. So by reviewing, you come to know all these aspects, how they have designed, how they have, which software they have used, what kind of method they have used, right? What is the procedure and method they have done, what problem they have faced. That will be highlighted in that paper. It clearly clarifies your things. By becoming aware of any problems and pitfalls, you will be better positioned to select a methodology that is capable of providing valid answers. So it increases your confidence in methodology you plan, okay, and defend it itself. Broadening your knowledge base in your research area. So once you are doing your research in your proper area, so the knowledge what you are getting or the fundamentals or basics you are going to clarify from that area will broaden, right? Your subject area, you become strong in that, clear, and You are going to clear your doubts, you are clearing your gaps, you are fulfilling your basics, you are fulfilling your fundamentals, your theories are clear, right? The context or the concepts are up to the mark. So this one advantage what it is going to do. Next is enabling your contextual your findings. Obtaining answers to your research question is comparatively easy. The difficult part is examining how your findings fit into existing body of knowledge. So finding the answers to the question is easy. Once you get the solution, you say, this is the solution. But difficult part is drafting, how you are going to correlate your findings with the literature or the previous methods, what they have done. Is there any improvisation? Is there any improvement in that? Alright, is there any something new you are doing? That is very important. How do answers to your research questions compare with what others have found? What contribution have you been able to make to the existing body of knowledge? Alright, if already others have already carried out, and if you are doing same thing, it is of no use. And if you are doing something new and there is no proper bridge between literature and that, then that is zero work. Alright, that should be some correlation what you are going to do, what solution you have got with the existing literature. There should be proper bridge, there should be proper correlation. Clear? How are your findings different from those of others? Undertaking a literature review will enable you to compare your findings with those of others and answer these questions. It is important to place your findings in the context of what already known in your field of inquiry. How to review the literature? That is very important task. Okay. 4 steps involved in conducting literature review is searching for existing literature in your area of study, reviewing the selected literature, developing a theoretical framework, developing conceptual framework. This is how it is framed. One simple thing is you are going to get books, journals, internet. These are the basics and easily accessible properties. Okay. So you should have some idea of broad subject area and then problem you wish to investigate, right? Then you are going to compile the bibliography, you are finding some things. Then when you are going with books, the main advantage is that material published in book is usually important and of good quality, and findings are integrated with other research. So you get broad knowledge when you are going to read a book thoroughly. Clear? Your fundamentals, your concepts, your basics get clear because it is in detail written. But journals, if you see the journals, it is only findings highlighted. Internet, you get all the materials dumped. Books are one where you get clear ideas and all up to the mark. Okay. Journals, you need to go through the journals relating to the research in the similar manner. Journals provide you with most up-to-date information, even though there is often a gap of 2 or 3 years between the completion of research project and its publication in the journal. You can locate the hard copies of journal that are appropriate to your study. Look at citation or abstract indices to identify and this. So when you are doing it, this will help. Then the third one is ingenious, the internet, where easily you can access. Okay. Reviewing the selected literature. Now that you have identified several books and articles as useful, the next step is start reading them crucially and put them themes and issues that are of relevance to your study. Unless you have a theoretical framework of themes in mind to start with, you separate sheets of paper for each theme or issue you identify as you go through selected books and articles. Once you develop a rough framework, slot the findings from the material so far reviewed into these themes using a separate sheet of paper for each theme of the framework so far developed. Okay, these are some general things. Developing a theoretical framework, then again the things you are going to writing a literature review. This is very important. Now all that you remains to be done to write about the literature you have reviewed. It provides a theoretical background, it enables a contextual, and how to write this is very important. So after reviewing the literature, right, clear you have got research gap, then you are going to do literature survey. After literature survey, your statement of the problem get precise and it comes to correct statement with all rephrasing, discussion, it enters into the proper manner. Okay. Research design already I have discussed, and I think I had stopped at different research design. There we have stopped the class, but now I'll clear with this and finish off unit 2 today. Then we can go with sample survey, sample design in the next class. Okay. Research design is nothing but it is the preparation of design chart, or it is the procedure, or you can say the methodology known to be done or in the previous phase. The research design is arrangement of conditions for collection and analysis of the data in the manner that aims to combine relevance to the research purpose with economy in procedure. Okay, it is the outline what you are going to do. So some things will clarify here. What is the study about? Why is the study being made? Where will be the study be carried out? What type of data is required? Where can the required data be found? What periods of time will be studied? What will be the sample design? What technique of data collection will be used? How will be the data analyzed? In what style will be the report be prepared? These are the things which you are going to put in the research design and have the outline chart. Parts of research design. The sampling design, which deals with method of selecting items. Okay, when you are going with some specific environmental or survey based, sampling design is done. Okay, which deals with selecting the items. Observational design relates to condition under which observations are made. These are some parts of research design which we normally carry out. Statistical design, which concerns with questions of how many items are to be observed. The operational design which deals with techniques by which the procedures specified in sampling statistical observational designs are carried out. It is in general. Okay. Later, these things will involve important features of research designer. It is a plan that specifies the sources and types of information relevant to the research problem. It is a strategy specifying which approach will be used for gathering the analyzing the data. It also includes the time and cost budget, since most studies are done under these two constraints. Okay. In brief, research design must at least contain clear statement of research problem, procedure and techniques, population and method. Directly I'll come for need. What is the need? Same way what we discussed, what was the need of getting the research problem. Same way research design, what is the need? It is needed because it facilitates the smooth sailing or a clear picture, a clear idea of various research operations that need to be carried out, thereby making research as efficient as possible, yielding maximum information with minimum expenditure of effort, time, money. Just as for better economical and attractive construction of a house, we need a blueprint of what is commonly called the map of the house, well thought out and prepared by an expert architect. So before going with the house, you discuss with the engineer, you discuss with the architect, you have a blueprint, then you go with the development. Directly you cannot have the construction, right? Same way, the research design, you should have all these things, effort, time, money, you have to take care of all this. Then having a methodology chart, then having research design chart. So you will come to know the specific things. One, I think I had given an example of mix design, that you are going to have first step is design the mix, concrete. Then later you have what is the water cement ratio you are going to put. Next you have how much days of curing you are going to do, at which day of concrete maturity you are going for testing. So these are the things which you design it in the initial stage. Okay. So research design stands for advanced planning of the methods to be adopted for collecting the relevant data and the techniques to be used in their analysis, keeping in view the objective of the research and availability of staff, time and money. Okay. Feature of good design, how it should be flexible, your design should be efficient, it should be, main thing is economical. Okay, you are doing something costliest project and you are saying your research is good, then it is of no use, because that is not implemented to the society. You cannot implement. For nowadays we do glass fiber reinforced concrete, carbon fiber reinforced concrete, strength is achieving higher and higher, but where it has been applicable, where it has been used, that's the question mark. So whatever design you are going to pick, it should be flexible, appropriate, efficient, economical. Generally, the design which minimizes bias and maximizes the reliability of the data collected and analyzed is considered as good research. Okay, good design. Similarly, design which yields maximum information and provides an opportunity for considering many different aspects of problem is considered most appropriate and efficient design in respect of many research problems. Okay, these are the features. Factors affecting selection of research design. The means of obtaining information, the availability and skills of the researcher and the staff, the objective of the problem to be studied, nature, availability. So already we have discussed this part, so I'm not going to deep. If the research study happens to be exploratory or formulative, wherein major emphasis is on discovery of ideas and insights, the research design most appropriate must be flexible. So you have got different type of research design, exploratory, formulative, descriptive type, all these things. Later I'll take this case. Why, what are this? Okay. So before that, we'll finish this important concept relating to research design. Already we have discussed in the previous class, even though I'll brush up this. We had dependent, independent variables, extraneous variables, that all things we have done. Hope you remember. Just I'll glance once again. A concept which can take on different quantitative values is called variable. For example, like weight, height, income are examples of variables. Qualitative phenomena or attributes are also quantified in the basis of presence or absence of concerning attributes. Okay, independent variable, they are not depending on others. Right? Age is one example of continuous variable, but the number of children is an example of non-continuous variable. If one variable depends upon or in the consequence of other variable, it's called as dependent variable. If the variables are independent, okay, they are not connected with other, they are not consequence with the other, or if one get alters, the influence of other should not alter, that they are independent. If there is an impact or influence of other variable on other factor, this thing, then it is what you call dependent variable. For example, we have taken an example of height and age, right? Maturity and age. So some examples are already given, right? If we say that height depends upon the age, then height is dependent variable and age is independent variable. So it is depending, okay, as age increases your height increases, but age is independent variable, it is not connected with any other variable. Next comes is extraneous variable, independent variables that are not related to the purpose of the study, okay, but affect the dependent variable are termed as extraneous variable. Hope I remember the concrete which I had given the example of water cement ratio and strength. Then we have taken some creep, shrinkage and time factor to explain this extraneous variable. Suppose the researcher wants to test the hypothesis that there is a relationship between children gain in social studies achievement and their self-concepts. In this case, self-concept is independent variable and social studies achievement is dependent variable. So extraneous variable is one which is affecting dependent variable is extraneous variable. Okay. Then control. One important characteristic of good research design is to minimize the influence or effect of extraneous variable. The term control is used when we design the study minimizing the effect of extraneous independent variables. In experimental research, the term control is used to refer to restrain experimental condition. Okay. Confoundant relationship. When dependent variable is not free from influence of extraneous variable, relation between dependent independent variable is said to be extraneous variable. This I think I had given an example for this. Next comes is research hypothesis. When a prediction or a hypothesized relationship is to be tested with scientific methods, it is termed as research hypothesis. It is nothing but testing procedure where we carry out at the level of testing, okay, or analyzing. That is research hypothesis. Next comes is experimental and non-experimental hypothesis testing research. When a purpose of research is to be to test a research hypothesis, it is termed as hypothesis testing research. It can be an experimental or non-experimental research in which independent variable is manipulated. It is termed as experimental hypothesis testing research. A research in which independent variable is not manipulated, it is non-experimental hypothesis testing research. Okay. If independent variable is manipulated, it comes under experimental. Okay. If independent variable is not manipulated, then it is non-experimental. Okay. Some example is given here. You can go through that. For instance, suppose a researcher wants to study whether intelligence affects reading ability for a group of students. And for this purpose, he randomly selects 50 students and tests their intelligence and reading ability by calculating coefficient of correlation between two sets of score. This is example of non-experimental hypothesis testing research because herein the independent variable intelligence is not manipulated. Okay, that is non-experimental hypothesis. Okay. Experimental and control group. In experimental hypothesis testing research, when a group is exposed to usual condition, it is termed as control group, and when group is exposed to some novel or special condition, it is experimental group. So normally we don't follow these things. This comes when you are going with some social science, this treatment and all. The different conditions under which experimental control groups are put is termed as treatment. Okay. This is experiment. Statistical hypothesis relating to some research problems, analytical one. So this all comes under experiment. Okay. If you want to determine the impact of fertilizer on a yield of crop, it is called absolute experiment. Experiment can be absolute or a comparative. If you want to determine the impact of one fertilizer on compared to the impact of other fertilizer, then it comes under comparative study. Okay, this is some experiment. Experimental unit is nothing but a predetermined plots or blocks where defined treatments are used. So such units are created for research. Different research designs. So we have explore, as I said in the previous slide, that research design is case of exploratory research studies, research design in case of descriptive or diagnostic research studies, research study in case of hypothesis testing. So what are these? Research design in case of exploratory research studies. The main purpose of such study is that formulating a problem for more precise investigation or developing working hypothesis from operational point of view. The major emphasis in such studies is on discovery of ideas and insights. As such, the research design appropriate for such study must be flexible enough to provide opportunity for considering different aspects of a problem from study. Okay. Second one is descriptive and diagnostic. Descriptive research studies are those studies which are concerned with describing the characteristics, the word itself is saying, for a particular individual or a group of things. Diagnostic is nothing but you are determining the frequency of the thing, which sometime occurs with association with something else. Okay. Third comes with formulative. This is the difference between exploratory, formulative, and descriptive diagnostic. Overall design, sampling design, statistical, observational, operational, what you are going to do. Third is hypothesis testing. That is the experimental thing where you are going to do experimental study and then get the readings out of it. Such studies require procedures that will not reduce bias and increase reliability, but will permit drawing inferences about causality. Okay, this is third. Next, we have basic principles of experimental design. Professor Fisher enumerated three principles of experimental design. One is principle of replication, principle of randomization, principle of local control. Okay, according to principle of replication, the experiment should be repeated more than once. Replication, okay, one again and again you have to do in order to remove the error and get more accuracy. Okay, one example is given that suppose we are to examine the effect of two varieties of rice. For this purpose, we may divide the field into two parts and grow one variety in one part and other variety in the other part. We can then compare the yield of two parts and then draw the conclusion on the basis. Okay, repetitive things we are going to do. Okay, randomization is when we conduct the experiment against the effect of extraneous factor is randomization. This is very difficult one. In other words, this principle indicates that we should design or plan the experiment in such a way that variation caused by extraneous factor can be combined under general heading of chance. Third comes is the principle of local control is the another important principle of experimental design. Under it, the extraneous factor, the known source of variability, is made to vary deliberately over wide range as necessary. Okay. So these are some important experimental designs. So this refers to the framework or a structure of experimental. As such, there are several experimental designs. They are classified as formal and informal. They are very important. Informal experimental designs have before and after without control design, after only with control design, before and after with control design. Formal experimental design are CR, randomized block design, Latin square, and factorial design. These are some flow, how the before and after without control takes place. First one is test area. Next comes is level of phenomena before treatment, treatment introduced, then level of phenomena after treatment. So y minus x will give that accuracy. Okay. After only control design. After is nothing but after treatment you are going to check what is the output, what is the result. Okay. Level of phenomena after treatment, level of phenomena without treatment. Okay. Before and after with control design. So you will be having control area and you will be having test area. So level of phenomena before treatment, then treatment is introduced, then level of phenomena after treatment is taken care. Okay. So CR method, that is completely randomized design, involves two principles, principle of replication and randomization. With that CR design, you are going to do this survey, this design. So one-way analysis of variance, ANOVA, this method comes in unit 4, it is used for analysis of such design. Even unequal replication can also work for this design. Okay. This is the flow chart of two group simple randomized experimental design. This is the flow how it carry out. Population, are randomly selected, a sample randomly assigned experimental group, and then independent variables, how it accounts. Then this is a flowchart showing a random replication design. This is the chart, how the process takes place. Then a randomization block, how you are going to categorize and how these blocks are chosen. Then Latin square method, it is very famous. We have fertility level, seed difference, you will be having some differences. Then by the things are taken, then you will be having number of combinations of that. Okay, these are some flowchart which is shown, and graphs are plotted. Okay, observations are taken care, and complex factorial design. So to next class I'll brush up these things, and then we can go with the unit 3, that is sampling design. Just we'll have the previous one. One thing I'll leave here is complex factorial design in this class. I'll leave this part, complex factorial design part. Then the next class I can cover these things. I'll finish off this, then go with sampling design.